So 58 apps. I have been out of the classroom for a number of years. So some of these have been around that long. Some of these are longtime favorites of mine, ones that I might have shared with you 8 years ago when I first started going around doing shoulder to shoulder, visiting with teachers. And then some of them are really new to me. Like I literally just signed in to kind of see if it's usable for us, based on either I heard about it in a session, someone was recommending it, or a teacher has emailed me, or we've had a software request. So there's definitely a lot of stuff on here that I'm not hands-on experienced with. And my thoughts were that across WRPS, we've probably got teachers using a lot of these different things that would be able to speak to that in-class usage much better than I can. So on the Padlet, you are invited. First of all, if any of the apps that I'm looking at today, if you use them or have used them either for yourself or with students, I've turned the rating on for these. So you can pop in there and give them a star rating out of 5. Right now, it's organized alphabetically. As I move forward in this process, I probably will sort this according to rating. And that way, other WRPS teachers will have access to this and they'll be able to go have a look. They're going to see things that other teachers are using successfully based on those ratings. And then also, please feel free to drop in any comments. So if you have tips about use, if you have any resources that connect to that app or software, definitely share those as well. So that's the first link in the chat right now. And then the second link is the published share link of my Canva presentation. I haven't had a chance to drop this out and convert it into a Google Slides if you want an actual, editable version of this, but that link there will take you directly to my slides. The Padlets do not have links to the apps, but the slides do. Of course, you're all perfectly capable of just Google searching something as well. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into first, I'm going to say the toughest, less fun parts, but most important parts of this presentation. A part of my role over the last, since I've taken on this job divisionally, but more in the last couple of years because of need, as well as just sort of changes in how things are done regarding FOIP provincially, regarding how Google has their domains set up, and a variety of other reasons. Privacy has become, this year especially, a really, really big part of my job as I am trying to get ahead of the very open situation that we have had in the past. So I used to always say, just if they sign in with Google, we're good. Things online, we were letting students use everything. In October, Google made some changes, which means we actually had to approve things that everybody was signing into Google with. So I spent like a lot of time in the fall going through the list of apps that everybody was already using. When we first started the process, we had 1,500 apps that were being signed into throughout our domain with Google accounts, various levels of usage. So that would go from, students are signing in and using the Google sign-in button down to many of those apps actually only had 1 or 2 users. Google kind of forced our hand on that, though we knew from a privacy standpoint that we needed to do better. So we're in limbo right now. I am working on getting privacy impact assessments completed for everything that we're already using that needs to have one of these done. And so when we go to look at an app or a software, the first question you ask yourself is, do the students need accounts set up to access the software? So this means either the teacher is setting up accounts, of course, in some cases with division-wide software, we are setting up those accounts, and then also students may be using the sign in with Google button. So in any of those cases, the answer is yes. If student accounts are being created, we need to have a privacy impact assessment done. we're working at getting all of the apps teachers are using properly paperworked. We need this document in the background, and it does take a bit of time to read through a privacy policy and determine if it meets our regulations here. So if student accounts aren't being created at all, if for example, lots of websites and some of the ones that are in my slides today, students just sign in with a code and they can play as anonymous. Those types of apps are proceed with caution. We'd still like to know you're using them. We still would like to have a PIA on file. A PIA for an app where student personal information isn't being collected is really easy and short to complete because I just get to ignore all of that part. And we're really mostly concerned about personal information. So if student accounts are not being created at all, those things are okay to be using. And at this point in time, I don't want anybody to feel that there's anything that's not okay to be using. If you're using something and you're not sure, right at this point, if it's working, at this point, we're not concerned. If something comes up down the line, those are conversations that we're open to having with you. And then we can also always look at the extra steps that might be required. And that can go all the way to the level of getting actual parental consent to use something with kids. So once we know that we do need to do that privacy impact assessment, then I would start to look at how are those accounts created. So the very best world for us is if teachers are creating accounts using either just student first names or a last initial if needed. Even better if they had non-identifying usernames like a pseudonym that didn't identify them at all, didn't include any part of their name. But if you're using first names, particularly, obviously, again, younger students have lower skills. So you have to make those judgments based on what your students are capable of. So lots of the websites that are available to teachers. So some of these, like you might sign in with Google, but the students aren't. You're going in there and creating their accounts with first names and last initials. And so for the most part, if that option's available, that would be our recommendation. That app would be cleared, but we're going to give you those extra instructions saying, please set up student accounts in this manner. Also, I've got these both grouped together. So I've been talking about these sort of together. So non-identifying usernames, that's got no personal information. If we're just using first name and last initial, that's okay too, because a last initial doesn't count as identifying. If we are using full names, so again, this counts with that signing in with Google. The students' full names are connected to their Google accounts. If student ID numbers, email addresses, information about the school are included within the student account setup, then we need a full stop. We need a full privacy impact assessment. Depending on what we find when we look at that privacy, the app may or may not be approved for use with students. Note again, the Google accounts, they're already containing these three pieces of information because their first name and last name are there. The connections can be made to the grade and the schools that the kids go to through you as teachers. So we do consider signing in with Google to be that giving up of personal information, and we need to vet it properly. So sort of general rule of thumb all of these years has been that if it includes three of those identifying pieces of information, so any combination of the three, then again, we need to make sure we do that privacy impact assessment. It doesn't mean that don't assume that because it's collecting that it's not good. We have all kinds of things approved that collect this information on students. Again, it's just being aware of what they are so that we can first and foremost have that documentation on file saying, yes, we did look at the privacy and we've deemed this to be a reasonable risk. So I've already mentioned, not to harp on the same point, but signing in with Google does include this three pieces of identifying information umbrella. So for students to sign in with Google, we do need to properly request software and then I will have to do that PIA process. If your students are signing in with Google right now, it's on our list to have that PIA done. So we probably don't actually have the completed paperwork yet, but because we saw people using it, or it's something we recommended along the way, it's already in the works to be approved. So you would only need to request a software if it's something that your students are not able to sign in to Google with, and then that will get added at the end of a very long list. I already mentioned there's 600 or so to go through. So new software requests at this time are definitely be being put sort of to the bottom of that list. And we're working on a new form for that as well. So as soon as we have the process completely nailed down, we'll definitely make sure that we let principals know first, and then they will let you guys know too. So I don't need to be leaguer the privacy impact assessment itself to you. I'm not going to read everything on this slide. It is available though for you to go back and look at. So this is sort of the general rule of thumb when working through the different parts of the privacy impact assessment, that we're looking for, these red flags. And there's certain things that are definitely a full stop. Like, for example, that they never delete personal data. If they're collecting 3 identifying pieces of information on our students and it says in their privacy policy that they keep it forever, unfortunately, they are not going to be approved. The social media component, generally, they don't have them for students, but that's something that I might add as a warning for teachers. Hey, if you have your personal and your work accounts linked in any way, Mathletics is going to start spamming your Facebook feed. And that example is real. Mathletics is the PIA that I'm working on currently. I was shocked to find out that they're using the social media algorithms to target you for advertising. They don't target students, but they do target staff. So that's a really good reason to keep your personal and work stuff separate. It's not harmful, but it is irritating. If they were targeting students, clearly it wouldn't be approved. So that's something that if you're ever looking at a new shiny software, something that's been recommended by another teacher, maybe you saw it at convention in a session, this slide here can give you sort of the Cliff's notes of what within a privacy policy statement is concerning for us in education. Basically, it's not about the companies that we're signing up for accounts for. I don't believe inherently educational softwares are out there to harm people. However, we are completely at their mercy as far as the data we give them. So a privacy impact assessment is about, this company has this information about my kiddos. What am I comfortable with some outside person getting a hold of if their database is breached? So we look for example, Amazon Web Services. That's one. If they store data in Amazon Web Services, that has been pre-cleared, vetted. We know that it's secure. We know that it's stored either here directly in Canada or in the United States. They let you know where backups and things are. So when we're looking at privacy for students, we're not trying to be difficult about not letting somebody use something that's really amazing, but we have to look at how are they storing stuff? How are they protecting it? If it's not encrypted, for example, that's something, especially with newer softwares, that they just may not be to these levels, that we want to make sure that they're protecting our stuff and no bad guys are ever going to get a hold of that student information that is there. And along with this, a lot of apps that students use, you'll also, there might be the potential for them to share personal information without maybe you even knowing. So that's a piece that we would look at as well. If we can't lock students down from being in the public, then that's something that would definitely get an app not approved. So graphic, but I get a lot of feedback about things not being able to be used with students. You can see I, having looked at it with this other lens, hearing case studies of teachers being taken to court by the privacy commissioner because of something that happened with an app that students were using. It's just really better to be safe than sorry. So throughout my presentation, and on some of the Padlets and then not on others, and just kind of depended on what the software was, if I felt like this icon needed to be there. So this is a legend for sort of what's throughout the presentation. If there's a little G button beside it, students are logging in with Google. That means it is or will be vetted and we'll get a privacy impact assessment done properly. This little Apple logo shows ones where teachers are actually going to be in control of creating those accounts. So again, that's either with the first name and last initial or some unique pseudonyms. The no accounts created, again, this is specifically to students. And in some cases, there may be a Google login available, but if it's a site where students can join with a code and play anonymously or just enter their name as they're joining the game, that's considered as no student accounts created. So there may be some that you sign in with Google, the students get the button, but when they click it, they actually can't sign in with Google. Those also would probably be on our list to look at, but because they can join with a code anonymously, we know it's super safe. And then the ones with our school division logo beside, just to highlight and draw your attention to anything that we either purchase or coordinate centrally and make sure that accounts are set up and all of those kinds of things. Those are the ones that everybody automatically has access to. All right, that's my little privacy spiel. Let's jump into the apps. Now, this is where I'm hoping that, as I said when I started, that there's some people in the room that have used some things. I may or may not talk about all of the slides or all of the apps on a slide, depending, even just looking at the time that we're at now. There's no way I could talk about all 58 of these and not keep you guys way too long. I'm actually hoping to be mostly tied up by 3 and ready for some discussion and questions if people are still feeling up to it. So I'm going to just start going through letter by letter. If anybody has something to add when one of these things pops up, if you're, oh, I use that, I love it. If you're able to unmute and talk about it, throw your hand up, please do. Pop something in the chat. If nothing else, be sure to pop on that Padlet and make a comment. So I'm going to probably just pick and choose my personal favorites unless otherwise directed. If you see something you want me to look at a little bit more closely, again, if you're an expert on any of these, please feel free to jump in. Starting with A, the A was one of the ones I had more than 3. I tried to narrow this down. I'm going to talk, I want to talk about arts and culture. Arts and culture, it might be one of my very favorite things. And I think it's actually really less known about, probably underused. I think sometimes as a teacher, maybe people are a little bit intimidated. There's a ton of stuff there, but Google Arts and Culture is a huge collaboration of all kinds of things connected to, just as it says, arts and culture. So you can, for example, get a look at Van Gogh that has been captured in super high quality. They're called gigapixel photos. It's like you can like zoom in and see like the cracks in the paint on the canvas on original artworks, and you can take a 3D virtual tour of the palace at Versailles, or any if you want to go to MoMA, parts of that have been mapped. They've got student activities and lessons and experiments. I really don't have time to open up this stuff and show things to you today, and I fully expect to lose people to other tabs as you start checking some of these things out. Top of my list for arts and culture is some of the experiments. There's these, well, if I tell you about the blobs, you might be on there playing with them now, but if you find the blob experiment, there are these cute little chubby guys that sing notes, and you can actually create some really incredible operas with them. Blob opera, that's what it's called. And like I said, so many museum tours, curations and collections, and your students can just access that as well. I should have prefaced this also. So Google's changing things all the time. If I tell you today your students can access something and then they go to access on Monday and they cannot, drop me an email right away and I'll make sure that we get these things fixed up. I think I tried to check all of the accesses as I was building the presentation, but I easily could have missed some. Adobe Firefly is on here because AI is a huge thing right now. Of course, we have our students locked out of things like ChatGPT and Google Gemini. They're 18 plus. We'd have to do some serious legwork and parental consents before we were to open something like those up. But Adobe Firefly, we are subscribed to Adobe for the purposes of having Acrobat available, and also some of their like Photoshop editing and other more robust programs for our high school CTF. So under that umbrella comes all things Adobe, and in with that is Adobe Firefly. So that's an online image generator. It's AI, so kids can go in there and use it as well. They should. They're logging in with Google should work, and they can generate some original content just with images in there. And I have not had much of a chance to play with Adobe Firefly. I did do a few slides for another AI session where I compared the Firefly images to the other image generators, and it did a decent job of creating images. It can create people, whereas ChatGPT on its own cannot. And I think if I remember correctly, it did do a little bit better than some of the others. I know it for sure created 4 image choices for each of my prompts, which was something nice, and students can use it. So that's why it's there. Abracadabra is a, excuse me, a primary reading. I saw some phonics and things on there. This one falls into that category of, ooh, somebody said it was awesome. It looked like you could just share a link with kids and they can access the activity, which makes it awesome as far as privacy and ease of use. And so that one's there for our younger guys too. On to the letter B. Book Creator is another one that I have shared for a number of years. There are limits on a free account so that you as a teacher, I can't remember off the top of my head how many books you can have in your library, but it should be enough. I think it's 40. So it should be enough for you to have a shared library with your class and for each student to have a book. It does have the Google sign-in. My favorite thing about Book Creator is that they actually have a Canva editor right within it. So then you can choose to create content using Canva, and you have like full access to all of their public domain images to be inserted into Book Creator. So it's a really simple book creation tool. You can see they've just got 6 different templates that you can follow. Just putting in images and text, a great way for students to create some simple ebooks that can be accessed online. They can even be exported as EPUB files, which is what your e-readers like your Kindle understand. Breakout EDU has that huge coming soon sign beside it. It might be coming sooner than my note says here. I have a series of Google Classrooms that were created a year or 2 back. There are links to all of the Breakout EDU games in there. So the difference between a paid license for Breakout EDU allows you to have sort of a classroom dashboard and put your students in, and you can watch their progress. It is a little pricey for just sort of a one-off software that can be used here and there to support your other curriculum topics. But what's really cool is that the games can be accessed directly through the link, so your kids can do the breakouts. I have saved all of the resources in a shared folder. So those Google Classrooms, and once I'm able to get them back up and make sure they're working, it says here that it would be in the fall, but I might even have those ready to go in June, when your kids are climbing off the ceilings, and you could give them some breakout activities to study for their final exams. So stay tuned for that. Breakout EDU is really cool. They're virtual escape rooms. The kids are fed a scenario and it asks them to solve some problems based on the information that's presented to them on the screen. It's really fun. Biodigital Human has actually been on my list for a long time. It has changed a lot. It used to be just an online virtual app that you would access with no login or anything. It's become much more robust. So it is blocked right now for students. They won't be able to sign in with Google and use it. I think I mean, I could definitely see some use for sure in the high school biology areas, but this presume would be more of a teacher tool. So for high school biology or maybe some junior high science too, really, really in-depth 3D models of the human body that can be moved around and interacted with, and you can toggle different systems and organs and parts. You can really customize what you're looking at. I mean, especially if you are somebody who understands the human body better than I do. So that one made my list. Also for the science teachers, but again, staff only, and you can sign in with Google. Canva. I could talk about Canva forever, so I'm not going to talk about it now. This presentation was done in Canva. I create almost all of my stuff in Canva now. Students can use Canva, which is awesome. Love Canva. Give it a go. CS first. So if you are teaching elementary science, next year you have the computer sciences coming in. CS first, I'm going to say probably starting in grade 4 at the earliest. You're going to want students to be readers. And this is a Google product. They have a whole bunch of different lessons that teach coding or computational thinking, but then also alongside some other academic type activities. So they might be doing some writing or some math. They could be creating spreadsheets. So CS first is really cool. Again, students can sign in with Google. You can go in there as a teacher and set up a teacher dashboard and add your students and assign them things and track their progress. You can also just have your students access and log in and start on an assignment via a link shared through Classroom or whatever if you like. Currents for Kids is one that popped up for me in a session recently. It's a fairly actually expensive subscription resource to get their full platform. But if the link that I shared here actually goes directly to the page that has the free downloads on it. So they share a bunch of their resources on this page for free for anybody to download. You have to scroll a little bit when you get to the page because they try to get you to buy at the top. But once you scroll enough, you should find they had a fair decent listing of samples there. So they're just some cool current events articles, and they come along with the lesson plan and the teacher questions and whatever. And I had a spot on my C slide, so I thought it was worth mentioning. I know we have an expert in the room on one of these because it came up in the last session. I will, if you want to unmute at this point, Aaron, and talk about Divot. That would be cool.
Yeah, I loved it. It's so helpful for making differentiated text for students. And if you're like me, you've got students in your classroom at all different reading levels, and Diffit can really quickly and easily create texts at different grade level reading levels, as well as accompanying multiple choice short answer questions. And then the free version of the tool, you can export it into Google Docs, Google Slides, PDF, that kind of thing. The paid version also has other tools that you can get, like graphic organizers and things like that related to the texts that you've created, vocabulary words, that kind of thing. But it's been, you can have it do it right from like just generate a topic. So for example, you could say, create a grade 2 level text on the Aztecs rituals or something like that. Or you can have it pull from a link, PDF, a YouTube video, like a copy and paste, Google Doc, Word Doc, and adapt their reading level from there. So it's very powerful and very helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin. I appreciate that. I only had a chance to just play with it a little bit, and that was when I was prepping my last AI session, I think 2 PD days ago. But it looks really cool. So that one for now is staff only, though your student, this is um, a staff software for sure, because you're creating learning materials for your students at different levels. Can I ask, Erin, do you purchase the subscription?
I did purchase it. I love it that much.
I figured.
Yeah.
I do not expect anybody to buy anything. However, I was a classroom teacher who bought many things along the way, because I just, like you said, I wanted them,
Yeah.
and we're resource poor. So that's good to know. That one's come up from, I've been looking through the software survey data a little bit, and that one has come up from a number of teachers. So maybe we can look further into it in the future. Discovery EDU is another site that, if we had unlimited budgets, I really wish we could get access for everybody to this. They have so much stuff there, but we don't have a subscription. But they do have some things that are free for everybody. One of them being their Discovery EDU Puzzle Maker. So you can kind of see a little bit in the image here. They just basic puzzle creation. You can create your own word searches and crosswords really quickly. It's a fairly friendly user interface to just generate some printable activities for your students. I thought it was worth sharing. Ed Puzzle. That's another that's been on my list for many years, and then it was on my list, and then it wasn't okay, and then where the stands that we're in right now is Ed Puzzle should be accessible by any students who also have YouTube accessible in the school. So we have a few elementary schools who still filter YouTube out on the actual firewall. So nobody is blocked from YouTube within our Google domain. And Ed Puzzle is an app that connects directly into YouTube. It allows you to take a YouTube video, pause it at certain points, and then actually insert interactives for your students, some questions. There is a paid and a free version, and I am not up to speed these days on what is included in one or the other. I would assume there's some question types probably that aren't available in the paid. Sometimes, though, it is actually the data piece. So a free version will allow your students to do it, but then if you don't pay, you can't, get a spreadsheet of all of their results. But I'm not 100% sure. If there's anybody here who uses Ed Puzzle and can speak to that, please feel free to let us know in the chat or by unmuting. I do know we have some high school teachers that have been using it like for a number of years. EPSB resources hits this. I'm not sure a lot of teachers realize. So those, depending how long you've been with us, those old brown science manuals that we all got from Edmonton Public Schools, they have not stopped sharing their resources with others. And now they actually share their digital resources, like a lot of them, for free. If you follow the link, you'll end up on the EPB on their store. And it will look like you're going to have to pay for things because you have to actually add items into your cart. But then when you go to your cart, it will show you that they all cost $0, and there will just be a download button there, and you can actually just download the resources. It is a little bit cumbersome to surf through. They don't have, in my opinion, the friendliest filters in some cases. And so and there's a really big French immersion initiative. So you'll notice right off the hop, you'll see a ton of French resources. But search, use some filters, do some digging, because I know they're doing like science snippets for the new curriculum and things like that. So definitely a valuable place to go looking for some resources, created in a large division where they actually have like teams of people at the central level to do this stuff for them. And EduAid falls into that category of, I really don't know much about it. Again, it's another educational AI, and it has can sign it kind of see on the screenshot here that there's a number of different things that it can create for you. I think this one too had a paid and a free version, and this is the one that was created by two teachers. So I think a lot of these AI apps have value. But then if you were in my last session, you know, I kind of like to go straight to the horse's mouth and remove the middleman and get my stuff directly out of, you know, either Chat GPT or Google Gemini. There's a ton of really awesome apps that lay over these large language models, and they format things out for you. So, you know, I was complaining in my last session about how they don't give you the rubric in a chart. Something like EduAid or Magic School AI, they have, you know, your stuff will come out in that nice little friendly printable format. Again, that is a staff only, and you can sign in with Google. Flip, formerly Flipgrid, probably one of the higher used ones in WRPS, though I'd be interested to know. I know it was heavily used during COVID and online learning. I'm not sure if it's being used as much today, but this is the sort of video Pinterest, where you can have a space for your class and you can post, and students actually record themselves with their camera and post it. It's been around for some time. Fig Jam is one that's newer to my list. Check it out. If you're into visual collaborative whiteboards, it's kind of neat. It flows differently than other virtual whiteboards I've used. Someone at a session I was at recently highly recommended it, so it made the cut here for the F. Oh, there's my. It made the cut for the F slide. I don't even feel right saying the F slide. And Flippity. Flippity's been around for a really long time too. I know I looked at a iteration of a slideshow from quite a few years ago, and I think there was like one row and just a couple other things on here. So it has grown immensely over the last 8 years. Flippity is just a layer over Google Sheets. So it has a bunch of just little interactives, activities. Like one of the oldest and most common used one was a random wheel spinner. You could just put your students' names in and create that spinning wheel for choosing students. And like I said, there's a whole bunch of stuff there now. Easy to use. They have you just make a copy of the template, which is a spreadsheet. It has instructions on it, and it shows you where to put whatever your information is in, so that then your students can use it. Thanks for that interruption. I got my afternoon coffee. I couldn't not have Google Gemini in here, since I just spent an hour and a half talking about it, as well as Chat GPT. Gemini was formerly known as Bard. This is Google's large language processing model. If you're not familiar, you are able to log into it using your staff Google account. Students are not, and it's just like Chat GPT. It's a large language processing model. When I use AI to help me brainstorm or create content, I generally do use both Gemini and ChatGPT, just to make sure that I'm getting accurate things, and generally one does a better job than the other on something. So I like to use both. Gemini's good. It makes rubrics in a Google Sheet, so that's my bonus there. You can ask it to create a 4-point rubric at a certain grade level, copy and paste in the curriculum content you want covered, and it will actually give you something that you can export right out to Sheets. It's cool. Genially, if you have seen my EdTech menu, it's an interactive kind of, so it looks like a website, but it's got like hovering buttons that pop up and things. So Genially is a cool website for just creating interactives with your students. And this sample here is a drag and drop math integers activity. And these can be just shared with students through a link or a code, so they don't have to have an account. You're going to sign in with Google. There's a ton of ones that other people have created that you can just go in and take and use. And I didn't mention that about some of these other apps, but generally a lot of these teacher tools that like Genially that you can create things for students, they always come along with like a resource database where you can actually find things that other people have created. So you don't have to be good at using them. You don't have to know how to use them to actually be able to use them with students. Oh, excuse me. I've got just gizmos here. This should probably say math gizmos. So Alberta Ed, and I don't have my disclaimer on this slide, Alberta Ed purchased gizmos, licensed gizmos for all kindergarten to grade 6 teachers rolling out new math curriculum. Unfortunately, we were not allowed to sign up teachers above grade 6. Oh, excuse me. So grades K to 6 teachers, if you're not using math gizmos, if you have not accessed your teacher account, I believe the emails actually never expire. So if you search your Gmail, you should be able to find an invite from Math Gizmos. If you can't find an invite and you've never logged in, email me. I'll make sure that we get you set up. And then, excuse me again, previously our students had to go through the Learn Alberta site and log in using our division username and password. Now that we can get set up directly through Gizmos, we can get you guys set up with your students to have like usernames and passwords directly within the site. So if you're not already using Math Gizmos, I highly recommend it. It is the Gizmos of old. So it used to live on the old Learn Alberta site. They've been working on updating everything into HTML5, which is the new language it needs to be in. So there's a ton of useful math and science interactives there, and they're putting more in all of the time. So really cool. On to the letter H, I only have 2 to recommend here, and HyperDocs does not qualify as an app. HyperDocs refer to digital lesson plans. They refer to digital things that you can give your students that are self-guided and interactive. So like giving your students like Google Slides, that the intent is that they, read through it and they click on things, and it's sort of built to be an activity. That was trademarked as HyperDocs sometime around online learning and COVID as well. So the website link that I have here, it goes to their trademarked website and their free resources that are available for download. If you go to your Google Drive and search HyperDocs, you should also find a curated folder in our shared drives that has a whole bunch of HyperDocs in it as well. How the market works, I just came across recently. I quickly had a look and then quickly closed it before I went down a rabbit hole and spent a whole bunch of time on it. If you're teaching financial literacy to, I would say, for sure grade 7 and up, possibly that upper elementary. As I said, I really didn't have a chance to get into this at all. You actually have to fill out a form to apply for a teacher account. So it didn't take me long to end up getting back from them. That privacy wise, I liked that right away. They were vetting me to see if I even qualified to do this. To use this website. So, I mean, long story short, you can set up a stock market game for your students. Really fun way to learn about financial literacy and the stock markets. If anybody does do this with students, I would actually love to come and see your students using it or hear all about it, because I got actually kind of excited in a nerdy way when I saw this. Moving right along, I don't have a ton to say about either of these. Imagine EDU is a coding thing. So if you're not teaching, well, I mean, if you're grade 5 or 6, probably not your first year in computer science, but you might eventually get to this. This answers for your junior high or anybody's ever done coding. This answers that I want to do real coding where I type it. So imagine EDU has students using text-based programming in Python. So if you're doing some coding with students, maybe even using Scratch, and you get a little bit of feedback about the blocks, and it's for babies and they want to type code, I think this app looks like more like what those kids are looking for. It has that really DOS computer programmer, I think, look to it, and with a pixelated image on the side. So just to draw that, there might be one person here who's delving into that. It could be appropriate for a junior high option as well. And the Internet Archive, I think it's actually archive.org is the whole website. That one came to me, the teachers at, I think it was at Wetaskiwin had requested access. So this is one of those things that it inadvertently got blocked out, I think to staff as well. And then a request came through and I didn't know anything about it, but of course my job is to go check it out. And then when I got on there, I was like really blown away with what is being stored. This might be something we could look at vetting for students at some point along the way, although I'm pretty sure we would have to keep it above a certain age level, just because it is a wide open database. So while there's tons of good stuff there, we don't have a lot of control over what kids might search and find. Just at a glance, they had a ton of novels that were available to just download, or if you sign in for an account, to borrow. So again, students wouldn't be able to do that, but that might be something that we could look at. And basically, they've tried to preserve everything off the internet that has, previously already, been gone away and overwritten with new stuff. So it's an online digital database. Really cool. Lots of good stuff for social teachers and English too. Jigsaw Planet makes my list, as it may or may not be recommended, but it is wide open and our students are already aware of and using it. This one, my kid actually showed me, and when he showed it to me, it was, I don't know if you can see on my screen, the only problem with Jigsaw Planet is that it is a public database. So then I had, scrolled through, and this would be the closest I saw to an inappropriate image, is this young lady in a bikini here, but there is some of that. So this is not something that we're not going to block this. This is not harmful enough to be blocked. This definitely comes down to a responsible use piece. Like I said, I'd never heard about it. My kid's like, oh, we do this all the time when we've got free time. And I think a teacher had showed them, and it's hard. It's awesome. There's some amazing puzzles on here. But just that fair warning, this is open. It's not a sign-in thing. It's just an access it and do the puzzle. The kids can't log in and create an account. So you have to finish a puzzle in one session. You can't like leave and come back to it. More to let you know it's there. So it's a great activity for kids to do. Doing puzzles is great for your brain and all that, but just being aware they may be accessing it. And we might have a conversation about, what kinds of puzzles are appropriate for grade 3s. And what do you do if you see one that you don't think really is for school? Well, scroll past it, whatever. So again, just a digital citizenship piece. Jeopardy labs. If you don't already have some template that you're using to set up some interactive Jeopardy games. Again, this is not for students to directly access. You're going to create the game and it's going up on your projection device. Students can come up and touch the question they want and it'll turn around, or you can click it. So it's just an interface that gives you a fairly simple editor that you can put your content into, and then it'll create an interactive Jeopardy game for you. I had to use a little bit of creative license with my alphabetizing. Google Keep. If you have not checked out Keep, it's task lists in Google. They can be shared, so you can create like a checklist of things that need to be done, and you can share that with other people. Students have access to Google Keep, so they can create notes and share them with others. So it could be, an organizational lesson when we're planning for a project. Students could use Keep to create their to-do lists and share them with each other. I use Google Keep like daily. It's one of my tabs that's open all of the time. It keeps my whole life organized. Khan Academy made the list. I was short of K's. It's been around a long time. It has fabulous teaching resources, and your students should be able to sign in with Google. So you can see I'm going to pick up the pace a whole lot because I'm not even halfway through the alphabet, and it's 4 minutes to 3. If also, I should mention that I'm not looking at the meet, but if you comment in the chat, I should hear. I'm going to whip through the rest of these so we can have some questions. But this one I'm going to stop on. Last one I'm going to stop on for any length of time. We buy Lumio. Lumio has came from Smart Notebook. It's the online version of the Smart Learning Suite. Because we have some teachers really heavily invested in old notebook lessons, we continue to license. And so along with that, being able to use old notebook lessons comes access to the digital version, which is Lumio. They have an amazing database of pre-done lessons that you can check out and copy and paste use for yourself. You get unlimited storage because we pay for it. And so check it out. They have really great interactives. I love the Lumio games. I would hate to see us lose that ever. I think it's one that I'd like to see people using even more. So check it out. You have free access. Sign in with Google. Learn Alberta made my list. I've been attending some of the curriculum sessions with the folks from CARC and Wanda Fontaine and our elementary teachers who are been crazy rolling out new curriculum the last couple of years. So I wanted to add this in here because unless you've been in those curriculum sessions, you probably aren't aware. So for teachers, when you go to the new Learn Alberta site and hit login, you want to log into my account, and you're going to go ahead and log in with Google. If you haven't logged into the new Learn Alberta site with your work Google account yet, it's going to give you a limited access, and you're going to have to click a button, like click on your name, and you're going to have to request access. That's going to send an email off to our SIS coordinator, and she'll get you approved right away. So teachers have access. So even though you're not rolling out new curriculum, the new Learn Alberta curriculum resources are available to everybody. And our province has been licensing some things. So I mentioned Math Gizmos. There's also Pearson Little Books in here. That's a fairly expensive digital resource that they're licensing for us, as well as Bookflix and some others. So if you go to the new Learn Alberta and log in with Google and get that access, you will have access to all of these resources to use for yourself. Your students can access resources there also. They go to log into my school account, and then they are asked to use our division username and password, which I apologize for blurring it on this slide, but it does need to be kept confidential, and this video will be posted to YouTube. If you're not sure what our username and password is for Learn Alberta, you can reach out to me and I'll get that to you so your students can sign into. So if those things in there, say there's a little book and you want your kids to actually access it on the Chromebooks, they can do that by logging into my school account and using our division login. And now we're just going to whip through, and I may just make a few honorable mentions along the way. Maps Street View probably is in the top 5 of my teacher tools. It says click here, but I did not put the link in yet. I will. This will link out to another presentation. I did a whole presentation on Google Maps, and some of it's probably irrelevant now. It's a few years old, but what is on there is there's a slide that has links to a whole ton of really cool places to go visit, like Diagon Alley and Chichen Itza. So I've got links directly to those Google Street Views there. You could share those links with your students and they could go on a virtual field trip. I love Maps Street View. You just drag your little yellow guy out onto any of the green roads on a Maps view, and you're just cruising around Universal Studios, Paris, wherever you want to be. Oh, I don't know if there's anything I need to talk a lot about. Nearpod's been around a long time. It's a good presentation tool. Free accounts get you, I think I saw I could have 20 lessons in there or something. You can have 40 students join. I'm going to talk real quick about Nova Labs. These have been a favorite of mine for a long time also. So they're a Discovery PBS. I think this is a PBS schools thing. So there's a number of them there. They're really cool interactive things for students. they're really specific. So I just suggest having a look and seeing if there's anything that matches your curriculum. Like there's a cloud one on there that was perfect for grade 5 science for many years. There's some cybersecurity stuff and other things. Nova Labs is cool. I just take a few minutes to check it out. I could talk about it for a long time too. Orbit Note is the PDF reader that comes along with Read and Write for Google. So we purchase subscriptions from Text Help for Read and Write for Google Chrome. All students and staff should have access to that. In fact, it's force installed for all students. Along with the Read and Write for Chrome comes Orbit Note. So it used to be its own thing. Text Help bought them out. If your students are working with PDFs at all, Orbit Note comes in handy. So it allows you to mark up a PDF, to write on it and whatnot. And if they can even access like the Orbit Notes website directly and save PDF files there and such too. OpenAI is on my page, and this is my little shout out to ChatGPT for I am in no way, shape, or form suggesting you go out and purchase ChatGPT 4. I can't even tell you how much it's going to cost you because they have the weirdest funding framework thing I've ever seen. It has to do with usage. But mine is $20 a month. I think that's the bare minimum. And then beyond that, if you're using it a lot, they charge you by the data. I do like OpenAI. I do like the GPT-4. I use the Dolly. That's the image creation tool. That's a part of that. It does the best AI image generation out of any of the other tools. And I mean, the images are amazing, but just that it will actually it matches my prompt perfectly every single time. And I've had some really wacky things come out of the other image generators. So that's there. Padlet, we did a Padlet in this session. I used one in my last session. It's a really great just place to share resources and collaborate on a sort of open bulletin boards type project. Pixlr is a photo editor in the cloud. It's similar to Photoshop. So there's an express version and a more in-depth version that allows students to edit images from their Google Drive. And then I don't think it saves automatically to Google Drive. It's been a while since I've checked one, but that's Pixlr. If you want students to do a little bit of photo editing, they have access to that, though. Canva does some pretty amazing photo editing too. So probably unless you're doing like a photo option where we're going to be doing a lot of more in-depth photo editing, I think I'd be inclined to just have students using Canva for that as well. The Q slide, shockingly, we've got 3 things here. Quizzes and Quizlet, very similar interactive platforms where you can create some online flashcards or quizzes for students. You're going to get that real-time data. Students can sign into Quizlet with Google. Quiz is, you provide them with a code. So both of these are great, and they both have AI functionality now, which means you can just tell them what you want, and they'll basically create some stuff up for you. Quick Draw is fun. Just check it out. It'll tell you what it is when you click it. It's a neural learning network. You can help it learn about drawings. I think Quick Draw is a great way for kids to practice either trackpad or mouse skills. So it's got you drawing with your mouse. So at a really basic level, it actually could help you learn how to manipulate with the trackpad or the mouse, and also have some fun with those drawings. Getting there, 305. Read and Write for Chrome, we buy for this. I talked about Text Help just a couple minutes ago. So the Read and Write, that's that purple puzzle piece, right? That pops out. I don't know if I can. Oh, I'm not going to be able to get it to show on my presentation screen. So we do pay for read and write. So I guess the most important thing here is just for you to know that you, as well as your students, should have access to all of the buttons on it. If any of the buttons are grayed out, there's some account issues going on, reach out to me. We want to make sure that you and your students actually have access to all of that. I would love to do some in-depth sessions on read and write. It does some things that I don't think people realize, like such as taking all of the images off a complicated web page and just pulling the text out with the click of a button. So if you would be interested in some more deeper training on read and write for Chrome, definitely let me know that too. I think it is underused for what for it. I think it is underused in our division. I was going to say for what we pay for it, but it's actually very reasonable compared to some of our other softwares. 100% worth every cent. Read, write, think is a new, well, I say it's new to me, but it's not. It's been around a long time. I think this existed back in the days of just printable resources. But they've got some pretty basic little interactives in there for younger students, and they're easy. You can just share the link, and there is quite a bit of advertising and extra real estate around the little interactive activity or game that goes on. So it probably wouldn't make my like top 20 or anything, but there was definitely some useful activities in there for little guys. We're getting there. I don't have very much for the last few slides. A smiling mind is another one that was just recently brought to my attention. We can't have students signing in, but you could sign in with Google. It's a meditation program, and they have a free piece. And I just thought it was might be a good thing to share, letting you. You might want to do some meditations with your class, maybe as a part of a health class, or if you're working on some focusing techniques. They have a whole bunch of different meditations in there that you could, pull up on your smartboard or play through your class sound system and do with students. Sketchpad is in my top 5. It's such a basic app. It's sketch.io, and it's just a cloud-based sketchpad. And if you, I'm just going to play this. Oh, it was going. It has a whole bunch of different kind of drawing tools. So this one in the video is called Sketchy, and notice how it just like turns it into this neat looking kind of pencil drawing, even though I'm not artistically gifted at all. So I like Sketchpad, and your students can access this also. Once you make a drawing in here, it's just a real simple file download, and then putting that in your slides presentation or putting it into your Google Drive to make sure it's saved. So it's just a way you could create some drawings for free and easily. Spell quiz is new to me. I did not get very deep. In fact, it looked a little bit complicated, but it came up in a session. This is one where teachers could go in and set up accounts for students. So if you want to do some word practice, they had a variety of different activities and testing models in there that you could run with your students. Tiny Tap. I can't believe I only had one T. And it might just be the frame of mind, and maybe it's because I was getting to the end of the alphabet and I started being harder on the apps I was choosing. But all I have is Tiny Tap. It's similar to like Genially I mentioned before. You can create like little interactive things for your students. You set up their accounts; they can be set up with just first names, and then again, other teachers have been using it and created resources. You can go there and just find things that other people have made, take them, make them your own, and use them with your students. These are both actually learning platforms for adults, Upschool and Udemy, a place where you can go if you want or interested in learning more about a particular app or a software, or maybe it could even be a teaching pedagogy. Udemy has tons and tons and tons of courses, and they have lots that they offer for free as well. So I'm just throwing those in there. So I had something for you mostly. Moving along to V. Vocaroo, I want to draw your attention to. I get asked a lot about how kids can record their voices. This is free. It's online. They just go to it, hit the record button, start recording, and then at the end, it'll ask them what to do with their file. They're going to do that download and then pull it back up to Google Drive. So that's a really useful one for just recording some audio voiceovers. If you're making a slides presentation and you want to have read alouds on the slides, you can record those easily there. Viewboard. My ViewSonic Viewboard is the free whiteboarding software that comes with the physical ViewSonic viewboards. So for right now, you can log in with Google. You can use a lot of their pieces of their app. You can't use everything without a premium license. However, view boards are what we are going to be replacing the current projectors and smart boards with eventually. So of course that's not happening all at once. I believe they'll be starting rolling. Some schools are being done next year. So when we actually formally launch view boards, then we will be licensing the whole view board software as well. So you don't right now have access to all of the pieces, but you will in the fall. And the free pieces are really amazing too. In fact, we had a couple of teachers at Wetaskiwin Comp pilot an actual physical board for us last year. And one of those teachers continued using the ViewSonic software after because it was liked so much. And then just like all of the other things that teachers use, there's a ton of whiteboards in there that other people have made, so you can just go there and find one that someone else has created and use it with your class too. So this virtual whiteboard will work with no matter what kind of projection you have in your classroom right now: TV, projector, smart board. You can start checking out that ViewSonic software. I will definitely be doing some further trainings on that as those boards roll out. I mentioned how Discovery EDU is a really expensive subscription service, but they offer a few free tidbits. So in addition to their puzzle maker, they also offer free virtual field trips. So the link here goes directly to the page for those. Check back often because, of course, they offer live field trips often. You can sign up to attend a live virtual field trip. You can also view their past virtual field trips at that link. Wakelet is my W. Wakelet is kind of like Padlet, so just another resource sharing discussion board type place that you can use and also use with students. Extra Math came back to me through teachers a few years ago now. This is pretty specific and basic, but it is fantastic math facts practice. I know when my son was doing it in grade 4, he quite enjoyed it. I think there were some challenges, whether it was competing against other students or maybe the teacher, if I remember, but he really enjoyed it. So Extra Math is cool. They've got a free version that is usable. Uh-huh. I could not think of anything for why. Um, and then I put YouTube and I thought, oh, I really hope they don't need me to tell them that YouTube is a valuable resource. Obviously, YouTube's been around a long time and there's great stuff there. Generally, I mentioned earlier, our students should be able to access YouTube videos, especially if they're shared with them on a slides from you or through Google Classroom. If you want your kids to be accessing YouTube and they can't, have a talk with your principal. We can definitely make that happen. Last but not least, it's 314. Ziplet. I don't know much about this one either, other than that you can post some quick formative assessments like an exit ticket for your students. They don't have to log in again. It's just they get that class code they're going to type in, and then you can collect their answers that way too.